Good evening. Welcome to Tanster News tonight. So glad to have you here. This is where we talk about what we've been putting up on the blog and the main thing that I'm obsessed about, which is Napoleon in all forms. And I think we found Napoleon in a shocking form to me since January. It's my understanding that Napoleon does live among us. And he is actually Elvis Costello, who I like to call Cohen, the King of America, Napoleon Dynamite. And he is Napoleon Dynamite. And I still think that it was some kind of PR trick to make that movie Napoleon Dynamite. Why did they do that? That's Cohen's name. He's Napoleon Dynamite. And now you associate it with not not what you should associate it with. Our Napoleon is dynamite. He is pure human dynamite. Anyone can see that. So I'm taking the name back when I'm saying Cohen because I don't even want to think of that movie either. That's why I want a new name. And I want a name that reflects that he is Napoleon. And and I think I was Hortense. I'm doing every single thing I possibly can to prove it. And I think I even found something else to prove it. So if I think that I was Hortense de Beauharnais Bonaparte, that means that I'm believing in reincarnation. It means that I have a very spiritual way of looking at things. I think there's more to this world than meets the eye. Okay, where am I going with this? Right now, there is an aspect forming where tomorrow there will be an alignment between Neptune and Mars. What does that mean? Why do I care? Obviously, I'm a fighter. I don't want to be a fighter. I don't want to do any of these things. But I am obsessed with someone who is a fighter, and that person is Napoleon. And if I want to be aligned with him spiritually, and apparently he's amongst us also, but I've been dealing with him as a spirit. And another really interesting thing that I have realized over the last few months, since I have been spiritually listening to Cohen, he's been showing me that he has written all of these songs that are very similar. He's also writing songs about how he is interacting with a spirit voice in the dark from National Ransom. That's a great example, but there are countless others. He can just throw them at you. Say, here, 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 here. He writes so many songs. I want to hear all of them. Hopefully, if I find a new one, I'm like, yes. There's so many. Greatest songwriter. I don't want to make other people jealous of him, but certainly a virtuoso at writing songs. Uncontested, of course. Anyway, so he's been saying for years that he is having a very spiritual interaction with a woman, a ghost. It's all over the place. I've been putting it up on the blog and I've been wowed about it myself. And I'm also interacting with a ghost who is Napoleon. And his ghost sounds a lot like me. My ghost sounds a lot like him. So from every direction, this is panning out is true. And if I really am the reincarnation of Hortense Bonaparte, the stepdaughter of Napoleon the Great, that's huge. And now I've been framed as a contagious person now, and I'm permanently under quarantine forever, as long as the Federal Reserve is in power running the world, I suppose. I'm always going to be locked up and hidden away from the world until they come up with their next idea for how to destroy my life. And if you listen to Cohen, he's also been saying that someone has been destroying his life for many decades. And he writes a lot of songs about it. So he and I, he's Napoleon. I prove it every day. I prove I'm Hortense all the time. So we have the same enemy, this this dragon with a bank in his claws. And as long as he owns all the world's money systems, he can put me under quarantine. He can kill anybody he wants. He has all the freedom of the world, almost like he's a sort of dark god, right? He can do anything he wants. And he doesn't have to worry about law enforcement. He doesn't have to worry about people uniting because we're so passive. We're just sheep. And we just take anything and we just stand there and wait to get killed. That's the world that I suppose we live in because I'm permanently under quarantine as a contagious person. I'm perfectly healthy. I've had terrible health, and now my health is perfect. I mean, not perfect, but better than it's been since I was a child. And now I'm being permanently quarantined by these liars who control everything. And because they have just so much more money than anybody else, they can make all the rules on this planet. And is everyone happy with that? I'm never going to be able to even see this person in a show. I can't even get on a plane. I can't even, and all of these corporations are supporting that. And what are the corporations doing that are all around all of these fun things that I can never do again? They're all punishing me because I tell the truth, and they're all punishing me and discriminating against me and destroying my life because I refuse to participate in the human science experiment that literally killed my mother. Let me explain to you why I think that human science experiment killed my mother. She was obviously terrified by her television. She was just, I'm sure she was a vibrant woman in her 60s. She was she was a tough lady. And then she goes out and participates in that human science experiment. And a few short months later, she dies of a blood clot, heart attack, who knows? So you have to go with the patterns. And then the police in her town even called my aunt in to find out if she was murdered. That's how much it wasn't expected that she would die, because that's a little town where everybody knows everybody. So they must have seen her very healthy and very ready to live a couple more decades. And then she just dropped dead. The fact that the police called her in shows you that they know murders are happening. So my mother was murdered, and now all the corporations that control everything fun, like concerts and traveling, they are all punishing me for my honesty, for doing the right thing, for being the only person doing any real journalism over the last few years. And they are all as one, as a giant conspiracy, destroying my life. And they're not only destroying my life, but they're destroying the lives of people all over the world. So all of these people are now Adolf Eichmanns. And I explained that yesterday. Adolf Eichmann was a man who wanted to continue his career. And the government in his country told him, with a wonderful pretext, oh, now you have to kill people all day. We have a great reason. And who funded the Nazis that employed him? Find out. It's Prescott Bush. And then go look at who it really was. Okay? And then look at what came out of his son and his grandson. Oh, who was president during 9/11? Oh, who was president during every other horrible thing in the 80s? Really, it was George Bush. Nobody seriously thinks that Reagan did anything. It was Bush, okay? So those are puppets. The Bush puppet dynasty family, okay? They officially funded the Nazis, okay? Officially. But who really funded the Nazis? See? So Eichmann, to keep his career, had to start killing people, and the government had a fantastic reason. It was going to be wonderful. They were going to get rid of all these problem people, all these contagions. All they had to do was get rid of all of them, and everything was going to be wonderful in Germany. And then, oh, it turned out that was a huge lie. So he had to run off and hide. And then the wonderful bankers were gifted their own fiefdom where they could really get started. And once they've had their own fiefdom where they can do anything they want, they can send anybody they want all over the place to destroy lives like mine. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm saying all this. Anyway, so then the bankers fiefdom captured him, put him on trial for following the rules that he had to follow to keep his job. Okay? And then he's on trial and he's saying, "Look, I didn't want to do any of this. I just wanted to keep my job." It's the truth. That's so it was obviously their idea to create as many Adolf Eichmanns around the world so everyone would have their hands so dirty that no one could really stand up for humanity anymore because everyone was going to be so drenched in crime and Nuremberg Code violations, just like Eichmann was. See, they did that to Adolf Eichmann, and then they executed him. Eichmann did not want this. This is what I'm trying to say about Cohen and the musicians and everybody. We're all being maneuvered into becoming Adolf Eichmanns because the financial system is squeezing us into it if we want to continue to, live and breathe and eat and have a roof. We're going to have to do all of these horrible Adolf Eichmann type things. Okay, so this is all because we are living under the nightmare dynasty of the people who finagled Napoleon into house arrest and then slowly murdered him and then called it natural causes and then lied to the public for 200 years. Yes, this is a dynasty that works over centuries. They have a very different perspective than a regular human who really just is active for, I don't know, 30, 50 years tops is these guys operate over centuries. So the reason I want to keep the focus so intensely on exactly who this is coming from, so we all know his name, what he looks like, the tricks he plays, the people he sends for me, all of that. I want everybody to really know what he looks like, really know what his name is, know where he lives, what country he lives in. Know him in your mind and be very aware of him because the next time he rolls another one out, it's straight from him. Okay? He's the top guy. He's the one who's responsible. Everybody else is dancing on his strings. We found him, and he's the one who's been sending people to me for years. I have matched the patterns up with Podesta, with Mossad, with the CIA, with Udo Ulfkadi in Germany. I've check this out from every single angle. I know where it's coming from. How do I know? I know from the patterns. I know from the mountains of circumstantial evidence. I've looked at this. I know who's after me. It's very clear. And he's the same one who's after everybody else. And the idea that I'm going to live out my life in a permanent quarantine because now the healthy have been framed as ill. How about the criminals be framed as criminals? How about law enforcement come back? Okay, the one who should be under permanent house arrest is not me in this situation. Okay, but it is me. Why? Because he has the whole world's money in his hands and he controls everything financially. Why does one person own everything? It's a good question, isn't it? And then there's all of these people with all these dirty hands around him who are like just terrified they're going to get caught for all of the murdering they've been doing to keep their jobs. This is very high level strategy, how it works, how they rule the world. It's through getting people to do things that they don't want to do, and then they're caught. So much of that has been done lately. I'm sure a lot of it was done with 9/11. So basically, people, they show up because they want money and they want a job and they want to live. And then, oops, now they're genocidal monsters. Now they're stuck. And it's too late. That's the game. That's what they've been doing for the last 2 years. All these people are like, oh, oops, they're genocidal monsters now. They know exactly what they're doing. They are genocidal monsters, and then they create genocidal monsters because that's what Adolf Eichmann was, a genocidal monster. He just wanted to do well in life. He was not a good person, but he was a person who would have done anything he was dragged along to do. So if he had lived in a good world, uh, imagine that. He would have just been a guy with a pharmacy or something. He would have just been a normal person. He was maneuvered to become a killer. He was very clear on that. And his son was like begging for his life. He didn't start it. The people who killed him started it. This is unbelievable. That was the 60s. This never ends because their reign never ends. Oh my goodness. Now, what I really wanted to talk about, and I can't believe I got off on that tangent. I'm so mad. But Mars and Neptune in Pisces are aligning tomorrow. Okay. So Neptune is spirituality, compassion, um, magic, anything that's elusive, confusing, foggy, beautiful, but you can't pin it down or it just dissolves. That's Pisces. And then Mars is like it's war, it's violence, it's sex, it's passion, it's getting what you want, it's putting yourself first. That's the energy of Mars. So when you put those two together, and that's going to happen tomorrow in Pisces, a very spiritual place, and maybe a debilitating place because it's so ethereal. And Mars is so like forceful, he's so fiery. And Mars is water. So the water kind of turns Mars into maybe steam, which can be a good thing, or it can put out the fire. So the water's not that great for the fire because you're really dealing with two elements that one puts the other out. They don't really feed each other. Nonetheless, the reason I'm bringing this up is because that's spiritual warfare or that's a paladin. If you think about a paladin is kind of a weak warrior. They can't lie. They can't just, kill anybody. They can't do the kind of things that Rico Puppet Master can do. Think of that, how strong he is, because he has no morals, he has no humanity, he doesn't care about anybody, he just kills and gets away with it and makes money and laughs. Okay? Is that how he is? Well, that's how he seems to me, based on his actions. Okay, put him up against someone like Napoleon. Napoleon feels bad for people, he feels guilty. This is what happened. I can tell you all of the terrible decisions Napoleon made because he felt guilty about women. Oh my goodness. The whole thing with Desiree was guilt. I could go on and on and on and on about all the decisions Napoleon made about because he felt guilty about how he treated a woman. He was so sensitive. Anyway, so there you go. And why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because Napoleon had Mars in his 10th house of career. Okay, his career was Mars. Oh, and I put it on the blog, on the astrology report today. So if you want to follow along with what I'm talking about, go to my blog, go to the astrology report. I put Napoleon's chart there and I put my chart there because I want to explain something about this Mars Pisces energy so you will know the power you have today and tomorrow. It's a type of energy, and I think if you know how to recognize it in yourself, maybe you can uh, become more guided and hear what you need to hear. And it's not just because I want you to help me. You're going to make better decisions for yourself if you have guidance. Right now, you need guidance. I'm still here because of guidance. It's the truth. I can't believe I'm still here, but I do listen to my guidance. It does work. Therefore, this is a great time to hear what you need to do from the spirit realm. Neptune, Mars align, and Pisces. This is a time where we can really get our orders and really do things because we're getting our information from the spirit realm, which is Neptune and Pisces. And I did make a good point because look, Napoleon didn't win. Why didn't he win? Because he wasn't anywhere close to as evil and ruthless as his enemies. There's no argument against this. His enemies were a million times more evil and monstrous than Napoleon was. How could Napoleon win against such a pure evil? listen to the memoirs. The links are all over my blog. They're pure evil. They're constantly starting wars. And Napoleon does not want these wars at all. Any group that's constantly forcing wars on the public is completely, totally ruthless and evil. Napoleon would never do that. He was always defending his interests. He did not start those wars. The situation with Russia is there's a lot of things going on there because he did kind of start that one, but look at the other ones. That's a long story, but like I said, guilt about a woman played a role. That's the part that kills you. A lot of his really bad decisions were based on guilt he felt about girls in his life. So he's thinking about girls, that's for sure. And he's having feelings about them. So that might be why Napoleon lost, because he had Mars aligned with Neptune in his house of career. So he's not just a nice warrior as a career. He has Neptune there. And it's in Virgo, which is detail-oriented and perfectionistic and careful and a servant. So you're really looking at a paladin right there. And you can see it in the chart on the astrology report that in his 10th house of career, and the other thing that's just such a validation of astrology is that Napoleon's sun is in Leo on his midheaven, and we have a real birth time for him. He said he was born around noon, August 15th. We have that's why it's so incredible to look at Napoleon's chart, because he was into astrology and he told you when he was born. It's endless causes, and I've seen that corroborated. So this is one of the few like real charts we can look at and study. So here you have somebody in the 10th house, and all I can see, I think he even has Pallas Athena there. He does. He even has Pallas Athena there. So such a paladin. And then the sun in Leo on his midheaven, which means like most famous person ever, because the sun is fame and Leo is fame. His midheaven is fame. So it's the chart's telling you this is the most famous person ever. And Cohen has something similar to that. I think Cohen's going to become much, much more famous. I think his chart is more famous than he is. Anyway, I do look at that all the time. It's fascinating. His chart is fascinating. It's so dark. So dark. So much like Saturn and Pluto and difficulties, but luck, a lot of luck too. And he has a lot of planets in the 12th house. Oh, it's okay I said that. Anyway, so my point is, I have these things I want to say, and I'm trying to say them all, and I am rambling, but I'm trying to show you Napoleon was a kind-hearted paladin, and he was up against the meanest people imaginable, and that we can't even fathom how evil they are. To create wars their whole lives, to make money. Can you imagine? That's what they do. They create wars to make money. There's nothing more evil than that. And they do it all the time. They're constantly planning wars for us. And it's not arguable. Let's go to court over it. This stuff's easy to prove. The problem is not proving this stuff. The problem is that they have all the money. That's the problem. The problem is they have all the money. I can prove all this stuff. Let's go to court with the real court, and I'll win everything in that trial, because I would do it for everybody and give everybody their stuff back. And that's what we're going to do. We are going to have that trial, and people are going to understand. They're going to understand that law enforcement is up to all of us, and that we can all do our part to reestablish justice in this world. Okay? So, what is justice? That's Mars and Neptune. Pisces wants things to be good, compassionate, spiritual. This is a different kind of Aries. Aries is in Pisces. That's more the kind of warrior that Napoleon was, a paladin. but he wasn't ruthless. He wouldn't do everything to he didn't foment wars. We're dealing with completely different rulership styles. So let's have a new rulership style. Ruling is Aries. It's very dominant. It's very heated. So we can have a new era of like a Pisces kind of rulership where we care about each other and we try to understand each other. And the other thing that's so interesting is you get a sense of my personality from everything I do. And I did see the other day that I have Mars and Aries on my ascendant, and therefore I'm a hothead, which is a kind of oversimplification of it. So I kind of want to go into it and say that I do have Mars and Aries on my ascendant, which means that I'm like a fighter. Like I have to fight my way through life, and that's certainly been true. But I have all of these weird aspects weakening and trapping and isolating this Mars that I have. It's such a afflicted Mars, and it's in the 12th house. So the 12th house is a place of Pisces, of this wateriness I keep talking about, this spiritual, compassionate, spirit realm energy. And that's where my Mars is. So my natal Mars is kind of Mars and Neptune. I'm awash in Mars and Neptune on my ascendant. And then the Aries is intercepted, which means both cusps are in the 12th house. So that Aries energy is like can't flow right. It's all black. So it's all like pent up. So and it's on my ascendant, so everybody can see it. It's very obvious that I've got all this fire. And then it's Mars retrograde also on top of all that. So it's weakened by the water, it's trapped by the intercepted house, and it's retrograde. Not only that, so retrograde, what does that mean? It means I have like trauma from a past life, or I'm abused, I'm isolated and abused, and it's really affected me, but I can't quite remember it. I can't remember anything. So all of this abuse is in a place of the subconscious for me. And the things that you don't know are in the 12th house. So my abuse, I can't even remember it. This is why, my cold heart. I couldn't I couldn't continue. What they did to me was so horrible. So I was so abused. And here it is. It's all here. I'm this abused person, and Mars can certainly be violence and abuse. So on top of that, that Mars on my ascendant is opposite Uranus in Libra. What does that mean? It means it's 180 degrees across the the chart, and it's along the axis of Aries and Libra. Okay, so Aries and Libra, that's Mars and Venus. So they're kind of opposites, they're kind of complements. Now you have War and Peace, or male and female, or violence and culture, all that. That's all the access that my Mars and Uranus are on. So you have to blend all of that and see that sometimes War and Peace are at odds with each other. Sometimes male and female are at odds with each other. It can be a conflict. That's why it's an opposition. So, and then the energies in opposition are Mars, which is so like hot and violent and sexy, and Uranus, which is so weird and original and brilliant and shocking. And so these two things are like getting each other really worked up because they're dynamite, basically. And they're both square Jupiter. This is on my ascendant, this is my Mars in Aries. I'm trying to show you how unbelievably crazy my Mars on the ascendant is, and how like twisted up and isolated and messed up in every way it is, but in a weird and good way, but it's painful for me. Anyways, so both Mars and Uranus, you're having a fireworks extravaganza with War and Peace. It's very it's very whipped up. They're both square Jupiter in my house of career. So this is my career, all of this. What career? I don't know. So on top of that, that Jupiter, so everything is in a flux and it has to come out in like a Jupiter educational benevolent way in my career. It's what I'm known for. And then that Jupiter, which is like my whole the way I come across, because that's near your midheaven, is square to Sun and Mercury. Okay, so it's like super blown up with like fame and attention in a communications kind of way in Scorpio. So it's very good at figuring out secrets and it's very good at being perceptive, but it's in my seventh house. So I'm just totally obsessed with somebody else. It's all in my chart. That's why I totally believe in astrology. And then on top of that, this Mars in Aries on my ascendant. And this is the kicker. My Mars in my ascendant is a doormat. It doesn't want to fight. It just wants to sulk and be angry. It's a very weak kind of Mars in the 12th house. I'm trying to show that. I have a lot of Mars, but it's very isolated and trapped. Just look, I'm isolated and trapped. It couldn't be more. And then that Mars is trine Venus. Okay, what does that mean? Mars trine Venus. So everything's terrible or crazy or hugely famous in a media way, or I have like all the luck in the world with Venus. It's art, love, beauty, charm, a seduction, anything like that. So I've got like all the help in the world for this horrible nightmare Mars and Aries on my ascendant. And then you go check at that. My chart's on the astrology report, so you can see, just to see how messed up my chart is. Now you got to go look at that Venus. Venus is in Capricorn, the place of horrible prisons and boundaries. And it's opposite Saturn. Same. Horrible. And it's square Pluto. Pain, misery, death, transformation in Libra. See, so it's like my art to be tortured about love. And then it's also square the moon in Pisces. Okay. So I'm just a mess emotionally, horrible, painful, difficult, but I'm helping that Mars and Aries. You see, so it's this like unbelievably tortured person who is, I'm not even going to continue, but I'm trying to give you the idea of how interesting astrology is and how accurate it is. Because why do I do this? I don't want to be a doormat, but like I feel more comfortable just being like, oh, whatever you want, I don't like being confrontational at all. I want to be like, let's get along. I don't want to fight at all. Why am I fighting? Because of my love. My love is making me fight. It's interesting. My love, which is that tortured, afflicted Venus. I'm in love with a dead man, or I'm in love with somebody I can never see. This is horrible for me. It's in the chart. This is a nightmare for me. So Venus, the most afflicted, miserable Venus ever, totally trapped everything, is the help to that Mars and Aries on my ascendant. Anyway, that's a story of how accurate astrology is, because I am a fighter. I have to be a fighter. I have no choice. I have that Mars and Aries on my It's ridiculous. Anyway, so I'm just telling you this story so you can appreciate that we have that energy accessible to us. And look, we all have good points and bad points in our charts. And if I had a much easier chart, I probably would be less interesting, you know? So there's an upside to everything. you become interesting when you have so much going on. The drama with me is unbelievable. It's like you truly could put me just alone, and I would have huge amounts of trauma, like this constant hurricane going on in me. It's not my fault. It's just that's the weather. And it's in my chart. So look at my chart and just see the anguish I'm always in. And there's nothing I can do about it except, like, well, I guess I could do something with this anguish and be productive with it. It's all I can do. But it's very interesting to look at my chart to see that's what a tortured person has in their chart. I am completely tortured. And I'm constantly like, can this ever end? Can it ever get better? Everything I do is for love because I want to get back to my love because I'm tortured without my love. This is, it ties into astrology. Anyway, so I'm trying to prove that I was Orton's. Now think of the torture she went through. She was twin flames with her stepfather and brother-in-law. Okay, so she was also very tortured, and her charts also reflects that. So what's it with me? Why do I have to be tragic? That's a good question. Maybe we'll find out one day if we do this stream long enough. I found a letter that Hortense wrote to Napoleon. And I think it's so interesting because Napoleon burned those letters. It's very hard. That's a whole other story. Napoleon and those letters. If he wanted to protect the person, he burned the letters. And if he wanted to tell on them, he kept them. That's what Napoleon did, like in the last days. But here we have a letter from Hortense to Napoleon, but I'm sure he burned them because I don't see them anywhere. And he didn't want to tell on her. I know it. But Marie Louise, oh, he kept those. Those he kept, and we have them, and we know why he kept them. For all the things he said on St. Helena, he did want to expose Marie Louise, and he did a good job. But Hortense, I think, got her letters burned because he didn't want any evidence of anything too weird. But here is the rare letter from Hortense to Napoleon, and you can see how she wrote to him. And this is right after Napoleon annexed Holland to France. And he's basically saying to Hortense, just get out of there, I'll take care of it. This is not a situation you can deal with. Definitely, it's what he's saying. And then she's just writing back to him, of course, whatever you want. I'll continue. Sire, I have received no message from Holland except a letter from Madame de Bouvers, who tells me of the king's departure. I enclose this letter. I was about to send it to your majesty when I received your letter. At the same time, I wish to inquire what I should do, for I only desire to act in accordance with your wishes. I am sending Monsieur de Marmont to bring back the prince to me, since your majesty allows me to do this. I am not well enough yet to travel as far as Laeken. At the same time, if there is anything your majesty wishes me to do, I am better, and I shall always try to do as you wish. The thought of living quietly near your majesty is most agreeable to me, and I beg you to believe that such is always the wish of your daughter, Hortense. If I receive any message, I shall send it immediately to your majesty. That is such a good reflection. So that's Hortense to Napoleon. She worships him and would do anything for him. And that is their story. It's all there, but they love each other so much. So clear. And that is the story that continues to this day. And we are still fighting the same exact enemies, this banking dynasty. And I just want to make it so clear, because I've been sued twice, and I know it was them. They have the little proxies that they like to work behind. But I got sued 2 times, made no sense. It was ridiculous. I was like, oh, I wonder who's really suing me here. That's harassment, and they have all the money in the world, so they can they can go harass anybody they want with lawsuits. But it continues and it continues and it continues, and it gets to the point that this is out, this is open. I want everybody to know exactly what this one particular person is doing to me. And there's all kinds of people around him. But we found him. There he is. That's the mob boss. There's no question. I mean, I've been trying to figure it out for a while. We got him. We got him. That's it. That's the top one. So Al Capone, don't make me laugh. These small potatoes. We got the real one. So the next time he wants to roll out his next war, and he wants to roll out his next wonderful health intervention for us, and wants to roll out his next shooting, he'd love to do the shootings, and want to roll out the next fake cults and all that stuff. You know where it's coming from. Because one person has all the money. The rest of us are all just wondering what's going to happen to us. That's us. He gets to do everything he wants. This is a perfect free world for him. World is his oyster. And we all have to wonder what's coming next because of him. So it's just one person. Then what? What happens if the one person faces justice? What happens? See, wouldn't that be so interesting? Mars and Pisces. This is a spiritual question. And I'm not suggesting violence in any way. I'm suggesting let's get very spiritual about how to get away from him and make that the focus, that we get away from him. And when he has people chasing after us, oh no, but we have to control you. We have to control you. We're here to control you. All of them. Say we can get away from them. It's spiritual. It's first spiritually where we don't listen to them anymore. And like, it's them again. You know who they are now. We can get away from them. We can. There are spiritual solutions. Everything is not money. Listen to your guides, and you'll see you'll get by. Okay. Okay. There's a way. It's like spiritual alignment, and you'll know what to do, and you'll be okay, and we'll transition into this new paradigm where we talk to each other and we care about each other and we try to understand each other and we stop listening to all of their debates and other wonderful celebrity tips. Please, please, let's get away from them, okay? That is my dream. Dreams. That's Pisces. Okay, this is my dream. I'm sharing my dream with you. My dream is a world where we're human and we care about each other. And I'm not under permanent quarantine as a healthy person. That I, I saw them trying to frame me, and that's the best they came up with to frame me. So actually, I think I'm not that perfect. So I think I think that's pretty good. If they had to frame me, that's the one they came up with. Something so sick and stupid that I mean, I hope I hope nobody believes anything they're saying anymore. I hope. So let's get back to Cohen's memoirs. I mean, obviously, I'm just aghast every day. I'm sure you are too. Nothing they're doing makes any sense. So let's just get away from. There has to be a way that we can just leave them. Can we leave them? Do we need them? Can we leave them? I think we should leave them and let them explore their wonderful religion with each other. About how superior they are. Let them tell each other how superior they are, not have us involved in it. See, Mars can make that happen. We have the fighting power for it, and we have the spirituality for it. But we have to unite. We have to unite because we're nice people. Nice people have to unite. Okay? We can, whatever Adolf Eichmann thing anybody has done, we can move past it because we have to. Okay? Second chance time. Okay, so yesterday, more erotica from Cohen. Not to say anything wrong with that. But, he had a wild life, obviously. So he's talking about the recording, the creation of Beyond Belief. Okay, one of his great songs from the 80s. Let me continue. I wrote the final draft of Beyond Belief over that recorded music, methodology familiar to many big post 1980s groups like you two, but the very novelty of it was a real liberation for me. I'd often change lines on the fly, rearrange songs in a different tempo or even in a different time signature and cannibalized entire songs, but to stretch the lyrics over an existing musical performance was unprecedented for me. I thought we'd invented a new way to play rock and roll, no longer screaming the words out over the drums, but using the false perspective of close miking to keep the voice low and intimate. It would be more accurate to say voices, as at this time I had the notion that there should be more than one vocal point of view in the recording. I would spend many long hours alone in the studio, redubbing leads in contrasting tones and registers, and building up vocal background groups, and even adding a few of my own keyboard and mallet parts to thicken the brew still further. I didn't think I needed any company, but the band had already laid down most of their remarkable part of the picture. Steve's dazzling piano in the bridge on The Loved Ones, and Bruce's chordal accompaniment for the last verse of Human Hands. The entire band's performance of Shabby Doll are just a few of the highlights. I had renounced the drink for the duration of the recording sessions, but I'd step out every evening for some air around 8 p.m., strolling up to the Muse pub off Portland Place just to torture myself. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate that. Have a good evening.